Hey, folks. Thanks, everyone, for being here. My name is Z. For those of you, let's get everyone ready with mics. For those of you who don't know me, I work at West Coast NFT. So West Coast is best known for its development work behind some brands that you may have heard of, such as Doodles, MFers, Goda. I've had the pleasure of working with many founders, and today I'm very excited to be moderating this panel with a focus on Australian founders. Just to get a quick show of hands, I'm interested to know how many people in the audience here are founders or are looking to start projects, Web3 brands, NFT collections. Let's get a show of hands. Awesome, cool, cool. All right, well, it's no secret, it's a very tough gig. It's even tougher launching successful collections and tougher still to grow them into sustainable brands. But no better way to learn from people who have been there and done that. So today joining us, we've got George, are you gonna let me call you George? George from Fusion XYZ. We've got Shan from Project Godjira and Ashur from Lazy Lions. So, hey guys, why don't we dive straight in? Let's get into who you are, your projects, and also I'm curious to know, is this your first time as a founder? And if not, what have you founded prior to your NFT collections or your Web3 brands? Whoever wants to start, maybe.
Yeah, sure, mic working? Awesome. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. It's actually a bit of like a full circle story in terms of like how I got into NFTs. I often joke about it and tell people that I was in NFTs 15 years ago. That's a bit of a, and I know the answer to this question because I spoke to some of you before, but like just a quick hands up. Who here played RuneScape growing up as a kid? And who still plays RuneScape? All right, that's cool. So myself and co-founder were totally into that game growing up as kids. And that's actually how I got into programming. Pascal, for like any of the techie nerds in the audience. And that's where we really learned the value of like digital assets, because we were trading, buying, selling digital goods back then, right? And also heavily involved in online communities around the programming and really learned what it means to interact with people online. And it's just felt natural ever since, right? And I think we're seeing like the reincarnation of that we had last year. So from that, it was actually fun. Like I was like 12 back then when I really got into programming and everything. And I remember telling everybody online, everyone was like, hey, how old are we all? And everyone's like 30 and 25. And I was like 12, and everyone's like 12, like what the hell? But, and you see the same kind of reaction now when you meet people in person after having spoken with them for so long online. So. From there, found out about NFTs beginning of 2021. Dove in, tried to go to gamers. Nobody cared, as we've seen. And that was around the time that Bored Apes was really booming, and just saw what was happening and how you were able to create meaningful brands with community and bootstrapping it in a way that was not possible before through that ownership that you're able to provide through NFTs. So put it out there. We had to do lines, of course, and shared our values in terms of what we wanted the community to be like, and who we wanted to attract to the project, and people seem to resonate with it, and the rest is sort of history.
Awesome, thanks for sharing, Shan.
Hey guys, so I'm Shan from Project Godjira. Wasn't into a gaming background like Ashur, but for me, Metaverse was Club Penguin. I don't know how many of you have played that. It was in Miniclip or something before, so that was like the thing I was like, kind of addicted to, spending some time there. I got early into cryptos. Actually, one of the, let's say, the OGs in the crypto as such. Like, got in like at 2016, purely out of fascination and also a little bit of the degen mindset. Like, just throwing money into some ETH and Binance during the IDOs and stuff. And pretty much I didn't need the money, so I never like bothered to take ETH out, and it was, kind of just kept it there. And I was studying, actually. I studied at Monash. So I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. And I was just buying, like, cryptos, just accumulating. Didn't have much of plans, to be honest. I was more focusing on stocks. And crypto was more like just a gamble. That's how I took it, like, just $500,000 here and there. And it piled up at a point, and I got a job at Tesla, so I was working as a robotics designer. I was like, just during COVID, I think I was like, what do I do? I'm working from home, and I'm not meeting my colleagues, or I can't meet my friends, and what do I do? And started, looking into NFTs early 2021. and then minted Bored Apes, and made the mistake of dumping like 4 out of 5 of the Bored Apes that I minted at like 4 ETH each. Honestly speaking, it was not for the money part, but it definitely hurt a lot because we all like to win. And I was like, wait, what did I do? Right? Like, you know, they dropped a kennel and then they dropped a mutant, and I was like, that's some really bad mistake that I did. And it was more like, you know, I wanted a place where I started like, you know, coping with the mistakes that I made, like, you know. So that's pretty much how I started a Discord server, you know, kind of like bringing up some, it's a closed Discord server back in 2021, like, you know, basically inviting people from different servers, you know, slowly just bringing up 5, 10 people. We started discussing about projects, started discussing about what do we buy next and stuff like that. And I was like, everybody was launching a 10,000 collection. And I was like, I had like 0 followers. I had like no voice in the space. What do I do? Like, you know, I don't want to come and launch 10K just for the sake. What am I good at is basically, you know, absorbing knowledge and also sharing knowledge from what I've learned and stuff. So we came up with a 333 supply. That's how the Genesis dropped. And we sold at like 0.05 ETH, right? Like, you know, it was a very small supply. And happy to say it peaked at 20 ETH, you know, in May, June of this year. So never the intention of cash grabbing or anything like that, purely transparent and stuff. And then we launched our Gen 2 supply. So slowly expanded. Started at 333, then launched a 3,333, and then we launched a 10K voxel collection like 2 months back. So worked our way upwards. And here I'm really happy to be here because we are kind of known in the Asian space, but I never looked into the Aussie space much. And it's funny because 4 out of 9 of our core team members are based here. So George and Josh and Ken. So 4 out of 9 co-members are from Australia. And I was like, we weren't like, you know, considered as an Aussie project. And I was like, yeah, time to change it. So we were one of the sponsors of the event. I didn't know even Lazy Lions was an Australian-based project till 2 months back. So yeah, that's where we are.
Thanks for sharing, Shan. We'll dive deeper into it.
It's not good from us at all, but you know, I'm super proud of like the turnout and everything about the event. But that's for
yeah,
later
it's
on.
incredible. George, please share your story.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, awesome to be here and humbled to be alongside some legends, Aussie legends. I also played RuneScape, by the way, Ashur, for many years. Bit of a different story with me. So I spent the last maybe 7 years in direct like SaaS tech businesses. And when they're I've been invested in crypto since 2017. You know, worked in sort of the VC and private equity space, worked in some pretty global sort of tech companies as well. And when the whole sort of opportunity came up around NFTs, I remember, you know, hearing about Bored Apes and them being minted. But for me at the time, I put the minting process in the too hard basket because it's a little bit too complicated to understand, you know, what a wallet is, what's gas, what you're paying stuff for online, what is all this sort of stuff. A little overwhelming, so I sort of left it in the too hard basket and sort of circled back later on when I realized how big the opportunity was to sort of like make money, I guess, like everyone else. But also what intrigued me was the technology and the opportunity. And then sort of what ended up happening is understanding exactly what the process was to onboard into a community was a little challenging as well. Like there's over, I think, 25 steps from what I understand in terms of onboarding into NFTs, whereas if you're looking at crypto, you're probably looking at maybe a 2 or 3 step process in a KYC and creating an account, transferring money and purchasing the crypto in this magical wallet online. But NFTs is a different story. So that intrigued me. And also in terms of, the barrier of entry was really high. So we actually set out to found a business that actually built technology to enable that a lot easier. So yeah, for anyone that doesn't know who Fusion is, we're a B2B SaaS software that we provide SaaS to the industry. So that was quite interesting. I actually had a really, the full-time role I was in was really overwhelming in terms of the roles and responsibilities. I was doing extremely well there. But what ended up happening is from a proof of concept that we had created back in January, we actually raised our first pre-seed round pretty comfortably, which was exciting. And then since then, we sort of built a software that's exceeded the expectations that we had. We're going through a second round at the moment, and I've left my full-time role to sort of move into the space full-time. So yeah, it's been pretty exciting.
Congrats, that's awesome. It's awesome to hear that we have such a varied lineup of speakers from gaming backgrounds, from working at Tesla, from raising some money. So we see that founders can be pretty much, that you can have different backgrounds and get into this space. I'm curious, as founders, is there anything that you know particularly about yourselves that you didn't know before becoming a founder?
I'm happy to jump in. I mean, with myself, I know what I understood about myself, especially in I guess the corporate life, is I really high expectations on myself, and typically I have the similar high expectations of my colleagues. The thing is, when you're founding a business and you're trying to hire the right people to get alongside you and stuff, it's sort of hard to have that really high level of expectation. So what I've found is being able to understand and find the right people to be involved in the business. Has been a bit challenging a little bit, to be honest, because I did have that really high expectation, but I've learned to sort of really look beyond that and believe in people that have the right vision and the right sort of opportunity, because we've all been at a point in our lives, I'm sure we can all relate to this, where we knew we were great for a role or an opportunity, but we weren't given the chance to deliver. So I've actually learned to sort of look past that, and especially when it comes to this space is so small and we're growing aggressively. As an industry, that is. So there's a lot of opportunity to bring up the right people as well. So I found that being able to look past that and sort of inside what's deeper is it's been pretty interesting, insightful during this time.
That's awesome.
For me, I think it's hard to believe for a few who might have attended my spaces, but I wasn't an extrovert. Had stage fear. I couldn't never thought that I would be in a position where I would have a lot of public speaking or, get on multiple spaces or anything. Even spaces, my first few spaces was I was really nervous and stuff. And then 2 months back, I had an event in Singapore, and I had to address about 800 members. That was a Godjira event that we hosted there, and I was like, I never thought I would do that, because as a robotics designer, all I got to do is just work, lead a couple of, few members in the team, and, it was a different thing. So I think that's the major thing. It kind of breaks boundaries. Another thing I didn't know that I could do is survive on 3 to 4 hours of sleep per day. That's definitely, even yesterday, I think Ashur and myself, we got home at 3, got up at 6, 7, and we are here.
Totally normal day.
So I think, these two, I think, would be my 2 things that I never expected for me to kind of do it.
Awesome. Asha?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think it just goes back to you just got to look at the audience and the turnout for an event, like an Aussie event. Obviously we've been to the ones in the US and, incredible, but this is really well run. Shout out to everyone who's, behind the scenes making this happen, everybody who's actually here attending at probably one of the, if you look at the market cycle anyways, just imagine what it's going to look like, during other times. So, and where I'm going with that is what was really apparent to me a month or 2 in when we had this massive rush, as everybody saw with NFTs, and it was really the opportunity and more the responsibility that we all have in the space right now, whoever's building or even participating, we're really pioneering the industry, right? And what I mean by that is some of the stuff that we've done, we'll put it out there, and then it's there's a whole bunch of projects now on Twitter who are doing the same thing, but it's with a moose or with a clown or whatever else it might be. And I've seen some of the software that we've built just copied, and it is what it is. That's fine, because we're all innovating, we're all figuring out what's going to work. Product market fit is still something that's elusive, that isn't there right now for most or probably all projects. So. I think that, and it's such an exciting opportunity because you're really at the forefront of this tech wave, and it's, it's a bit cliche, but it's very early. That felt a bit gross to say, but yeah.
That's awesome. Very humbling answers. Shan, I want to dive a little bit more into Project Godjira. You're very active on Twitter, so obviously you said you started out maybe very nervous, but now you've grown into this, and because we're talking about what it takes to be a founder, you recently tweeted this, which I think is quite relevant. Quote, probably every founder would feel that they could have done a lot of things better / differently, end quote. Can you expand on this, maybe in particular to Project Godjira? Is there anything you would have done differently now that you're here?
Of course, I think the other part of the tweet was also about where there's one set of founders, they know that they made, they could have done a lot of things better, but then still continue pushing and taking the project forward, or take the easy route out, just rock the project and kind of go and start, which is probably 99 out of 100 projects. It's always when you have the minting phase, it's fun and nice, and you see all the money coming in, and everyone is ecstatic, and then they go on parties and stuff, and then you don't have revenues coming in, and then you're you kind of start losing losing interest on it, right? So that's pretty much what I meant by the tweet there. Like, so for me, 100%, I would have done a couple of things definitely different. I wouldn't change the supply how we started, like, with the 333 and build a strong core community. Even in this market, it's at 8th or something at this stage, although it's a small supply. And then even our Gen 2s and stuff. But what I think, we have purely been working on transparency and stuff because all the funds are on chain and all of our salaries and everything is public. And we although it's not needed, we even post financial statements every month. But what I think one error I kind of did was we grew bigger than what I expected. And we charged very less for the treasury. In spite of being super transparent with the 20 ETH flow for the Genesis, we went with a 0.1 ETH flow, for example, for a Gen 2, and we raised like 300 ETH. We raised much lesser compared to a lot of other projects, and right now our treasury is sitting at $3 million, not counting on royalties and stuff, purely on services and tech or other aspects of the business that we have built in the last 6-7 months. So for me, royalties I thought was a Ponzi, for instance, from the start, because, except for the artists and stuff. I really want royalties to be on for the one-on-one artists and legit artists. But as a utility-based project, for me, royalties or relying purely on royalties didn't make much sense. So I would have just had a little more of funds in hand early on, because I was a little bit against going for VC funding, although we had the opportunity and we still have the opportunity. But nevertheless, there's two options where I just complain or just drop a collection just for the sake and try to raise more funds, or just be adapt. That's really important. You can never be perfect, right? You have to be ready to adapt and accept that you made a mistake, or that's the first thing, right? Many people are like, nah, this is what we did, the market conditions and all those things. First, accept that that's probably a mistake and see what you can do to rectify it in different ways. If I got stuck in March by being like, oh, we could have easily sold our Gen 2s for more and had 1,000 ETH or a 2,000 ETH treasury. And if you ask me, does it actually piss me off when I see some weird random projects may raise more and then completely rug? Yes, it does, but what can you do, right? You can't just complain about it. So we adapted, and I'm happy, because if not, I don't think I would have got lazy maybe. I wouldn't have set up all the multiple revenue streams. So I really want anybody who's listening here, even if you want to start a project, first think what you want to do, right? Before you start. But if you start, do your best, right? There's a difference between a rug and a failed project, right? That's what we have to first, define. It's okay to have a failed project, but it's not what's happening. Majority of them are, straight up rugging. So. That's pretty much what I mean. Just keep pushing. If you, as long as everybody makes mistakes, just keep pushing.
Yeah. Lots to learn, no regrets, but learning from mistakes. Let's dive a little bit into this. You talked about multiple revenue streams. I know with Project Godjira, you guys are expanding beyond the collections. You've advised a lot of people in the space. Now, talk to me about all of these relationships, building your own brand. How important is that to you as a founder?
In fact, recently I made a tweet. I think, you have crowdfunded, all right? You crowdfunded a project. Everyone's working in the back and everyone's busy. It doesn't make sense when you tell your holders that, I'm busy, I cannot be texting, or I cannot be tweeting, I cannot be, having a town hall in Discord or something because I'm busy building. Everyone's got a life. Everyone's got a project that's, we all have work. But how hard is it to spend 1 hour or 2 hours a week to, kind of interact with your holders? So I think personal brand is very, very important, right? It shouldn't be bigger than your project. It's almost like, in sports, as they say, no single player is bigger than the team. So similarly, it's really good to have a personal brand. And I think as a founder, the first thing in Web3 that you can do is participate on spaces and voice out, build your own voice, right? As much as my tweets is not always bullish and stuff, and I like to talk about what I feel, and some might feel that it's negative. It's not negative, it's just I try to, tell from my perspective, which I see from the back. Pretty much I think that's pretty much what I would say, in the sense, personal brand is really key, important, and spend as much as time with your holders as possible. Recently, a simple change that we did in Discord, during this bear market, we opened up a forum, an open forum called Is PG Lacking, right? So it was kind of like a move that as a team we discussed whether it's all right, or if even the guys who are bullish on the project might turn, negative towards the project if some unnecessary questions are being asked. We started like about 17 days back. More than 70, 80 questions have been asked, and we answered every single one of them. And they're fine, they're happy. Even the guys who kind of like create a little bit of FUD, we answered them straight up. And this is open for all the holders to see. It's not something on Twitter, it's not on Spaces. You have any question, ask us, right? What's coming up, what's happening, why, or whatever. Because it's a very emotional space, right? Web3 is a very emotional space. And if you're going to complain that these guys are like, they don't think for themselves and they just come in as gamblers, remember that you got your money because of that, right? They wouldn't have invested on a 20-year-old or a 19-year-old randomly coming into the space, paying 1 ETH for your collection. So how can you complain that they're being dumb or something when that's how you raised funds in the first place, right? So I don't think it's about like, complaining or giving reasons that, these guys are immature or Web3 is young and stuff. That's your duty as well as a founder or a team. You can't be like some of the projects, they just like kind of go into the shadows. They raise the funds, they go into the shadows, stating that you build. No one is here for the actual utility. I don't have time to play the game. Even if other side is going to come out, I don't have the time to play the game, right? Most of us have our own lives and stuff. So the question is, are people really here for the real utility at this stage, or are they here for the brand and the project? So if you're just going to be silently building in the back, even if you release the best of the best product out there, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I appreciate founders that are really open and vocal and who can take constructive criticism as well and just have open, honest conversations with their communities. Ashur, let's jump into Lazy Lions. You guys have grown quite an ecosystem with Lazy Lions, and I think one of the things with business strategies, with founders, they always have to keep in mind, how do you do customer acquisition, and then how do you do customer retention to keep growing your ecosystems? So now, as a more mature project, how do you bring new eyes? How do you bring new founders, new holders into your communities?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it goes back to what Shan was just saying, and it's super critical. Like if there's one of the key takeaways I think we should all take from this, I would highly recommend, is like, get comfortable with being transparent and like over communicate, right? Can't stress that enough. I think for us, that's probably something that, we've done a lot, but not even enough, right? And like, anyone who's been on crypto Twitter, you've probably seen like, some photos of Lazy Lions. I think we're probably like one of the loudest. That's the name that we've gotten on social media. It's been, super critical to the success of the project, thankfully. But as a founder, you really have to be active and open. And one of the things, we're pretty simple with this in terms of like new holders, because even to this day, right, like there's new holders coming in who have never experienced like the Lazy Lions ecosystem, and they're jumping on Twitter and they're sharing out their cub, their lion, their bungalow. And one thing that we did from the beginning was just make sure that we personally welcome everybody into the community. And we just did that because it's just one of our core values. Like everyone's we treat everyone with respect. Everyone's royalty. You're a king, you're a queen. I mean, we're all lions, right? So, to this day, that's something that we've just kept up. And, how much of an impact that actually has, I've seen some people mention it. Hey, it was great to get welcomed in. But I think it's just one of those, it's that mentality of, you really have to have that personal touch. Even to this day with the 100 million trading volume, I think to date, it's like I don't think we can lose that. So, hopefully that, answers that.
Very high touch points and clear communication, brand building is really important. When you're not I guess you are constantly brand building, but when you're not in Discord talking to your communities or on Twitter, what does your day-to-day as a founder actually look like?
Yeah, I mean, wake up, of course, you jump on emails, like pretty standard stuff. Wake up, jump on emails, go for a run, come back. There's usually like a bunch of meetings, especially during this time where we're planning out 2023, and just having conversations with other people and like exploring opportunities as well. So there's been a ton of those ones, which I think it's super critical, like just being here and networking with everyone as well. Like that's, it's great to see so many people here. Especially during this stage of the market as well, right? So a lot of that, we've obviously got like projects that are constantly running a roadmap with, I think we've had like over 20 items this year. And like, for example, one of the items could be like our a brand awareness campaign that we did with Puma, and we had an activation at their New York City flagship store, and line holders could come down and get their shirts custom printed. We had branding all over the place, or like an activation with NBA Sacramento Kings. We had Lazy Lions on the Jumbotron with the branding and on court. So it's like, working on those things, it's a lot of effort, especially on the biz dev side, because you have deals that just don't go through as well, right? So those things take a lot of time. Got to, obviously, great team members, moderators as well, making sure that's all good, and usually sleeping late.
Yeah.
Usually sleeping late, but I think it's more out of excitement than anything, right? Like there's so many countless times where like myself and co-founder have just been on calls up until like 2, 3 a.m. just thinking, shit, like what if we go this way? Like what if we do this? Like what are the potentials here, the opportunities there? It gets really exciting when you think about it. And maybe, I don't know, I'm sort of like that. I get like really excited about an idea, and I think sometimes it's like, it can be a bad thing, because it's like, oh, hold on, let's not go down and bet the whole company on that one idea, right? Like let's go a bit slower. But yeah, that's a typical day, I would say.
Yeah, awesome. I'm just always interested to know, like, what is that unfair advantage that makes some founders successful or more successful than others? And I think you had a mix of, you do exercise, you're doing team meetings, you've got your in real life activations, but you also have the grit to like get through late nights with your team and things like that. So yeah, great combination. So George, let's talk about Fusion. We were talking yesterday about TBD and working with all of these awesome founders in the space. What is your favorite thing about working with founders, and particularly in helping build the tools for them to better engage with their communities?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. It's we've been pretty lucky to grow pretty exponentially in the last sort of 12 months. Working some pretty big brands. I think during a bear market, there's a lot of times where people are uncertain with what might be happening behind the scenes. It's really exciting to see, even with Shan and a lot of the others that we've partnered with as well, behind the scenes to see what's actually being developed and how Zeneca was actually touching on it earlier. Shan was touching on it in terms of multiple revenue streams, innovating the actual application of NFT as a technology, as opposed to just a concept that is just an image in a PFP, et cetera. So, getting that insight's really incredible, and it's sort of validating the fact that the industry is moving in the right direction. So, it's really cool to learn from that perspective, and also we've got some pretty big sort of Web2 opportunities as well, which are super exciting, specifically with like Warner Records, and what I know there's obviously Motor DAO and Ocean 4 Music and a few others in here that in the music space. So we've got a pretty unique opportunity to bring a concept that is really credible within Web3, or something that's pioneered in Web3 around community and a community-first approach, and actually apply that to a Web2 industry. And we're sort of in the process of bringing that across. So that's super exciting as well. And it's just, I guess, further validation in terms of where the industry is heading. I think that's, it's really cool to see.
Yeah, awesome. And you guys are building more and more tools. We talked yesterday, you've got lots happening in the background. And to do that, to build a great product, you need a great team. So in terms of building out your team, what are the things that you look for when you're hiring candidates, when you're growing your team?
I think it's the heart, to be honest. Like someone that's passionate, yeah. Because the thing is, obviously you need a good skill set. I think our biggest bottleneck right now is obviously finding the right talent in terms of development. And that's been a bit of a challenge because we've grown exponentially, like I touched on. Like our software we launched in 5 weeks. We've got 6,000 active users on it on a daily basis. Delivered over 400,000 interactions on Twitter. So stuff like that in terms of scalability and building the right sort of software. It's hiring the right staff and finding talent that actually believes in your vision and your ethos, as opposed to someone that can actually just deliver the software. There's a lot of awesome agencies out there that build software and develop, which is brilliant. I think for us what's important is to actually hire internally and take people on a journey and actually provide an opportunity where they can actually change their lives through the opportunity that we have to deliver. It's up to us to obviously execute on that, but we know we've got a really awesome opportunity to do that. So, getting people to buy into that vision, I think is super important. And then, going onto that journey together. So yeah, definitely the heart, obviously the talent's really important as well. It's obviously very hard to find in this industry. It's very niche in terms of the talent, but yeah, it's something that we're pretty active on, so.
Awesome. Well, if you're looking for a role, make sure you hit George up.
Yes, full
folks,
stack.
time has flown by. I wanted to maybe lift the veil a little bit and ask founders. I love asking this question. What keeps you up at night? Because I know usually on Twitter and on notifications, everything just looks like everything's going fine, and it's often a celebration. But what keeps you up at night?
Besides the evil clowns?
And ETH dropping.
Yeah. No, look, I sleep like a lion, I guess, like lazy like a lion. But no, I don't know if it's out of fear or, like I mentioned before, just out of excitement, right? Like it's such an early stage of this tech revolution, and just like all the possibilities, the opportunities as well, and just like meeting people as well. And it's like, who knows what this is going to look like in a couple of years from now, right? And all the relationships that have been built as well. So no, it's more just out of excitement.
Cool. It's a pretty positive answer.
I think
Shan?
same stuff actually. As you mentioned, 1 year back, you're watching, you're listening to music, or you're watching something on television, you're watching sports and stuff. And in the last 6 months, I've interacted with people I never thought I would meet, with the Audi official team, because we were partnered with them for their launchpad, and with the Tag Heuer CEO, Frederick Arnold, and artists like Lil Baby and DJ Khaled and stuff. So it's been like phenomenal. I'm like, sometimes I think, is it like what's happening? How did this happen? It's kind of like a mini, like a fanboy moment as well for me as well. Seeing these artists and now working with them on some of the projects through our consultancy. It's like, I think that's, just the thought, you try to sleep, and then you're like, it starts you start brainstorming while you're about to sleep. You're like, what if we do this? What if we do that? And then you suddenly look at your clock, it's like 5 a.m. and you have a meeting at 7 or 8. It's not sustainable, it's not good, but I'm trying my best. Yesterday I was prescribed melatonin by one of our holders. He was like, yo, you need to have this. And he gave me a box yesterday. He just came to the event and he was like, Shan, I've been wanting to do this. And he gave me a box of melatonin because he knows I tweet at 7, 11, 1, 5 p.m. every single hour. And I'm like, yo, you're not sleeping. Come on, you need to have this for the benefit of us.
Yeah.
So there's that's how it.
Great answer. George?
Conscious of time as well. I know probably going a little bit over. Really just contemplating decisions. I think you've got to make decisions really quickly, especially in the startup space as well. And it's not something that I've used to do. I was very strategic in terms of how I approach things. So getting comfortable with that, I think, keeps me up, contemplating the decisions we made, are they the right ones or not. But in most scenarios, you find out after the fact. Thankfully, I think they've been pretty decent for now. We've obviously made some wrong moves, but yeah.
Yeah,
So that's what it is.
awesome. Great mindset. Folks, thanks so much. Please follow everyone's projects and give it a round of applause.